Thank you for joining us, and welcome to the Northern BC Gamer. We're a group of gamers doing a playthrough of Paizo's Starfinder Adventure Path Drift Crashers. Tonight's episode of Drift Crashers is being replaced by a HAC-Suite chat with the band members. We'll be discussing first impressions from the players, put a few questions out for them to answer, and see what their musings are for the remainder of the game. My name is Darren, and around the table tonight we have Todd, who plays our drummer and seeming acting ship's captain Flair.
Hello, people. How's it going?
The other Darren, who plays the Skittermander Crumb.
Yes, hello. Salacious Chrome, Pyrotechnic / Mechanics.
And Zane, who plays songwriter Strange Ed.
Hello.
Catherine and JJ are running behind with projects of their own tonight, so they will hopefully be joining us later. But we might as well get started. Welcome to the HAC-Suite, folks. Pull yourselves up a chair, order up a drink, and let's talk Drift Crashers. So far, the game has seen the band's ship merge with a pirate ship, crash land in hell, escape to an alternate reality, and are facing off against their evil twins for control of their ship. And we've only reached the halfway point of Book 1. Drift Crashers is an adventure on rails, to be sure, but even having read through it, I didn't quite appreciate how many twists and turns this roller coaster really has. I think you really need to be in it, playing it, or running it in the moment to start appreciating some of it. And like I said, you guys have been tossed a few different directions, and you're only just starting. What are your guys' first impressions of the story so far?
This is Crumb speaking, Darren. Found this one's a little more action-packed right at the get-go.
A little bit. It did start right in the middle of a fight. It's very, very twisty turny. It's got a good pace right off the start, I think. I think it'll settle down a little bit here and there, but it's pretty constant go, I think.
And as for characters, like I never realized how squishy just like a Skittermander was. So I'm looking forward to my first level up just so I can get a little
little extra stamina and hit points in there.
The HP to start.
Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah,
I got 8 stamina and 6 hit points, so like one well-placed shot could drop me. So I got to hide behind some chairs.
Yep.
As a Skittermander, I could just pick like a little half-covered like duck behind.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the beginning of the game and how it comes through. One of my favorite shows I used to watch a while back was called Sliders. I don't know if you guys remember that,
I do.
but it was a show where basically they portaled to different dimensions and they would end up like with a planet with dinosaurs or a planet where the Nazis had won the war or something, and they're always just sliding to other portals through other Earths to try to find their way back home. It reminds me of that a little bit in a way, because we're sliding to different dimensions and seeing ourselves and things. So I really enjoy it because I love it. So
my connection to it is, or first initial thought was, in some ways similar to Quantum Leap. Not the same style, but the idea of you're just jumping from world to world, reality to reality. It's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting meeting versions of yourself and things. But yeah, as Darren was saying, we have a party mostly full of pretty squishy characters. So
You do. Your only solid fighter in the group was Reptile, and while he's there, the player isn't here, so it definitely leaves you guys in a different position. I don't think it's going to have a huge impact on the game. This game, I think, has a lot more situations where role play is going to be the order of the day, rather than getting in a fight like Attack of the Swarms, the other game you three are playing in. So I think it'll work to your guys' advantage having people who are less interested in roughing it up and more interested in I'm squishy, so let's be careful. Talk our way out of it.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
has not worked out so well for Umbra in this last session, though.
yeah. Our first session, we were split into two groups of three, and I've got the envoy, that I built to be saying "get 'em" all the time and giving the marshals a bonus on their attacks, and I got paired with the other two casters. And so "get 'em" was doing absolutely nothing for them. I was the only one benefiting from it.
Yeah, a little bit. Z helped out a little bit, but I think I'll probably end up making her a little bit more of a. She'll be more likely be your marshal type character in the group, even just as an NPC. Um,
Yeah, so yeah, this is Crumb and Darren speaking. It's like Z is we have our own like NPC characters. Z is mine.
yep, your security officer. I mean, initially the NPCs are designed to be kind of secondary background characters. They've got abilities that they can make use of, and as you guys get higher levels, they gain more abilities. But in Z's case, just because you guys don't have a dedicated fighter, when the time comes, at times, I'll probably buff her up a little bit to take that role in the situations where you guys might need it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's definitely different. Yeah, I like how I did really appreciate how Umbra tried to roleplay out of that in the last session against herself about keeping Nefia and letting Nefia do what she wanted, and then, but unfortunately, it didn't work out at the end of last session, which was left on a cliffhanger with her being teleported out into space. So we'll see how that turns out. But yeah, like I said, since there's going to be more role play, that she really is doing a good job with that, I think.
yeah. I have always found I'm an old school gamer. I mean, I've been gaming for 40 years. And back when I started gaming, I didn't know any girls that gamed or any women that gamed. And I didn't meet other women that gamed until I'd probably been gaming 10 or 12 years. Um, and I have often found women bring something very different to the table, in their approaches to everything about gaming. And it makes it really, really interesting in a group dynamic. They bring something that a lot of guys don't think to bring to the table. Um,
Yeah, I agree with that.
I've always enjoyed ever since I started running games with mixed groups of guys and girls, or whoever. I've always tried to keep a little bit of a mix in if I could, if I had that opportunity, because it brings just a very different dynamic to the whole table. So I'm quite enjoying and looking forward to where the game goes from here with you guys. So some of the aspects of your guys' characters have very obvious bases. Salacious Crumb and Strange Ed, we're looking at you two here. Um, but what can you guys tell us about the inspirations behind your characters? And I'm going to start with Flair, because Flair was the first character that dropped once you guys started. Once the game pitch had been put out there and you guys had decided to join the game. You had everything bang right there,
Yeah.
very quickly. What was the inspiration for Flair?
So I just kind of like look around on different Starfinder groups at just different images on Facebook and different areas, and uh, found an image of a character that was a halfling, which had rainbow colored mohawk and wearing leather, and I was like, that's really cool. Like, way different than my other character in Attack of the Swarm, which is a big giant polar bear soldier. And the way I knew the background of this was like we're band members, and so I wanted him to look like very cool looking for a band, kind of a punk band. With a Vesk as the lead singer seemed kind of fitting. And so I saw the image, went with that. I was like, that works. It's a halfling, and then this world works. And I gave him like some silver tactical baton as his drumstick, so he can attack with those, even though he's not really an attacker.
Nice.
Melee fighter, yeah, and he's even though he's the drummer, so I as the drummer, I made him a technomancer. The technomancer spells I gave him were all based on spells that can be used during the show. So,
Yeah,
for
I noticed you had some illusion stuff and things like that in
yeah,
there, which
so
I
he
thought
has
was
like
really neat.
dancing lights he can cast out. He has ghost sound he can cast out while he's playing, the drums. He's got the electric light show as a spell that he can like make dragons or make it say drifters, or whatever, the drifters up in the sky, and distant speech, so he can yell out like to really loud to like have 1,000 feet of people hearing him in the concerts. And, he has a wardrobe change just to look cool, yeah, and a wall of fog so he can fog out the stage and things. So made him very kind of, as the drummer, he can be back there when he's not necessarily playing or something. He could be casting lights for the show. So all of his cantrips and spells are very show oriented. Not great for battle, but
That's all right.
they're there.
I don't think it'll hurt him in this game. I think
It's
it'll
yeah,
be a lot of fun, and I'm sure you
it's
guys will come
very
up with some interesting uses for things.
yeah, he's very thematic to the story and of being a band member.
Oh, absolutely. That was the first thing that jumped out when you dropped your character. My first thought was, oh my God, this guy's perfect. That's awesome. This is what we need as, hey guys, this is who I'm going to be. As the first
Yeah,
character to drop, I thought that was kind of it was it was very fitting to the theme of the game.
yeah. And as far as him like going on to become the captain of the ship, that was just kind of
It's just happenstance.
by happenstance. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think originally it was going to be, it was going to be the Vesk, but he since that player dropped out, we just kind of needed somebody, so I kind of just stepped up in the session
And
after it
you
merged,
were the
and
one, who was shit
he's a
talking
little
the
more,
pirate
yeah,
captain. So
he's a little, he's a halfling, but he's not your standard like Lord of the Rings halfling. He's a little more brash, a little more outspoken, a little, he's a drummer.
yep,
he's so that's kind of he'll shit talk because he's got a Vesk in the background to help him back him up. So
exactly, exactly. Um, Zane, tell us a little bit about where Strange Ed came from. You designed your character, one of the last ones in the game, on purpose. Um, where'd Ed come from?
Yeah, I was debating back and forth between an envoy or a mystic. Ed, as you say, is obviously the most I don't know, inspired from the real life Weird Al. He's always been my favorite artist in the way that he can come up with lyrics to fit existing songs. Always impressed me, so I decided to take some inspiration there. Mechanically, I'm just going to play him as a pretty standard envoy, focusing on you know party buffs and things like that. Get them, and the one that lets you restore SP will be an addition pretty soon as we level. I did go with, a sonic gun, again, just to be thematic with the the theme of the party being in a band. I went with a sonic weapon, so it uses sound waves to produce its damage and stuff like that.
No, I liked it. I saw the picture when you dropped it, and a big grin spread across my face. It's like, okay, I'm a big Weird Al fan too.
Yeah, yeah, it was a tough choice between that one, the one I'm currently using, or Daniel Radcliffe from the biopic. It
Okay,
was tough to call there for me.
okay, I like this one. I like this one. I gotta say, I love the Amish Paradise look. And Salacious Crumb. Where was your inspiration for the Skittermander? Because you've played in 3 of the games now.
Yeah,
Before, and this is the first character I've seen you just kind of come to the table with.
uh, my inspiration for this character was I always played like for my last campaign for like our first Into the Vast. I played like a magic user. I was a Star Shaman Mystic,
Yep.
real magic-y, real like area of effect. Then we have another game called Attack of the Swarm. I was gonna go a different character, but I went for another magic-y character. So this time I want to, after playing in our uh, little one shot or two shot or three shot for the Skittermander,
Yep. Skitter shot.
I wanted to play just a mechanic.
Okay.
And yeah, I've always been more of like a magic-y support, so I just wanted to go for just more of a little more tactical feel.
Cool. Cool. I hopefully you're enjoying the way it's working so far.
Yeah, it's been going good so far, but I just didn't realize how squishy my specific character and race was. So I got to hide behind people or ride behind on Z's back like like Rocket Raccoon style.
Yeah. Fortunately, that'll change a little bit as you go up in levels. It'll become the initial starting hit points and stuff will be less of an issue because once your levels go up, you just start
Yep.
getting your mechanic increases is the big one.
Z can be your Luke to your Yoda. You can be Yoda riding on her back.
Yep.
And as the mechanic slash pyrotechnics is my job in this whole little band. Shooting off flare guns or throwing up flash grenades or holo grenades.
Yeah, I remember looking through the different types of mechanics, and the experimental explosives jumped out at me because you wanted to be the mechanic, and I thought, ooh, maybe he'll be, the technician guy of the group who does all the explosives and pyrotechnics and stuff, and this gives you that impetus to just grab a grenade and throw it. What kind of grenade is it? Well, let me decide. I think that's a very neat class ability to fit in with the character concept. So, out of the 6 sessions we've played so far, what's been your guys' favorite moment so far?
Chrome again. I guess just right when our ships merged, I guess it was a whole new battlefield. I was stuck in the engine room. Fought an interesting monster in there.
Yeah, yeah,
It
that
was like it looked like a clockwork gas cloud looking monster.
it was a. Give me a half a second. I'm gonna look up what it was called again. It was a kind of like a time elemental of some kind. Oh, what the heck was it? It was after the attack with the pirates. A time eater. It's I think you guys made a lot of saving throws against its abilities, but one of the things it was supposed to be able to do was, if I remember correctly, slow you guys down, and you guys always made your saving throws, so it didn't get to use some of its abilities.
Yeah, gotcha.
But yeah, it was interesting the first little part of the game because you guys were split up so much. It it left things in some interesting situations. I mean, like you said, Zane, you ended up having all the casters on the bridge for the first little bit, and all the more physical people out of the bridge. But that being said, you guys made short work of the pirates on the bridge. To be honest, you took them out pretty handily.
Yeah, I think yeah, the pirates. The pirates are an interesting part of the story, just because we ended up like with the ship merge, like we had to take them out initially, and then when we ended up in hell, I think that was a really cool part. I thought very very like heroic and of the actual pirate after I took command, like the pirate captain, like he went out to like hold the demons off while we could get the ship going to take off, and I honestly thought he was gonna be dead, and I like messaged him, I'm like, get on the ship if you can, and we we shifted and came back, and he was outside of the ship. But that was hilarious because he's like, you guys gonna let me in?"
If
I thought that was great.
if you hadn't sent the message for him to grab on, we're taking off, he'd have died
Yep.
with the rest of his men. Um,
Yeah.
the setup in the game is that if you need the pirates to die at this point, they can die saving the ship. And I thought it was much more interesting to have him hang around.
Yeah, it was great.
I've got
'Cause
some plans for him and Montecito and Zev and Navra.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was great. I was like, okay, this guy's like actually fallen in line now that we beat him, and he's like gonna help us, you know. And so I didn't want him to die at that point because he was willing to sacrifice himself to let us get away just for the ship and the crew. Like he's got some sort of pirate code loyalty there, you know.
Excellent.
Thought that was great.
Good. It makes me glad that I'm doing a good enough job making the NPCs at least somewhat believable for you and interesting
Yeah.
enough to make you think, hey, that's kind of cool. Let's keep this guy around.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I like that. I also like the dinner talking to the other NPCs ourselves. That was cool.
That was enjoyable. I've kind of been looking forward to this short stretch of the game. I kind of wish this section was later in the game, just to give a little bit more dynamic and a little bit more interesting things I could do with them as NPCs. I'll be honest, this was actually the most daunting part of the game to start putting together because it's so close to the beginning in the game. I was worried I was going to have trouble making your evil twins interesting.
Yeah, I can see that since you don't have a lot as much knowledge about our characters at
Well,
that point too,
exactly.
and different, you know.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure they were I had a good enough feel for you guys of your characters that I'd be able to make them interesting and realistic enough rather than just saying yes, they're your evil twin, but give them each a little bit of a personality that was maybe similar to yours, but maybe not quite, or maybe
Yeah.
very different. Their Salacious is very different than your Crumb.
Yeah.
Their
And then we got Ed
Salacious
and
is much
Edwina.
more, yeah, Ed and Edwina.
I like that Edwina was gender swapped. That was perfect. You know, not
I
your
did too.
typical this is Ed with a goatee or evil looking eyes or something like that.
I'll be honest. When I created the tokens for your guys' characters, I pulled up an AI art generator and I just grabbed your pictures and I put in the name or whatever, or Mirror Universe, I think was the prompt I put in for it. And most of them came out with things that looked very, very similar. For whatever reason, the picture that you have for Weird Al comes out just some really off the wall, it doesn't look like a person art. Or it came up with a woman. So I looked at it and went, well, that's what I get. Edwina.
I like it. It turned out great. Yeah.
I thought it worked out too. It gave me a good feel for the character.
Yep.
Yeah,
And it gave
the
Damien somebody
the
to
Umbra evil twin art is really good. You know, I like the evil look there.
I liked the way most of the tokens turned out for them. I think Achilles was probably the least interesting of the tokens. But oddly enough, he's got a goatee. That's the real difference in that one.
Yep. And I like that how you use the reptile is basically we can't tell the difference from the reptile at all. So it gave me a role playing opportunity to just be like, screw it, I'm gonna shoot them both and just work it out later.
There had to be one that was basically just the same person, and the reptile being who the reptile is from my history of him. Darren's the only other person in the group who's actually encountered the reptile in a game.
Yeah,
it
was the Into the Vast in like a bar scene, right?
A couple of times. I think you guys gave him a ride once against Sid's better judgment.
Yeah. So Damien Flair's just in that situation. Flair's just in the situation now where he's like, I'm just gonna shoot them both and knock them out, and we'll just resolve it later.
Shoot them both and let the gods sort it out.
That's right.
All right. So, get on to some individual questions for you guys. This may be a short HAC-Suite. Will depend whether JJ and Catherine get in with us or not. But we'll start with Zane. You're playing a couple of my Starfinder games now, and I know you've had a lot of experience running Starfinder Society stuff, right?
Yes.
Yep. I haven't ever really had any opportunity to look at the Starfinder Society adventures. My understanding is it's basically a long series of one-shots, some of which are just one-shots, some of which are kind of chained into a theme for a season, right?
Yeah. Society is interesting. I compare it to like a TV show that has a mix of episodic content and, a larger overall plot arc. Something like, say, Supernatural, especially at the beginning. They had episodes, there's scenarios that contribute to the overall season-long plot, or sometimes two plots. But then a lot of them are also just, this is the adventure of the week kind of thing. So you can jump in and play them in any order. And that's part of the reason is you can play them in any order. So there might occasionally be some timey-wimey things going on that you just kind of have to hand wave. Oh, yes, I'm playing this scenario after my character has done this other one. Yes, yep.
So do they have level requirements?
What's that?
Do they have level requirements?
Yeah, each scenario has a level. Most of them are like 4, so level 1 to 4, 3 to 6, 5 to 8, type of thing. A few of the beginners are only level 1 or 2, just to kind of keep the beginners to a smaller, level range, less likely to have character death, on your new characters that way.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. I thought the season 1 overall plot was as good as any adventure path. And that's the one that I've played and GM'd the most the whole way through. Pretty much the entire pandemic for like 15 months. I was GMing Society like every weekend, at least one session, sometimes two or three in different online conventions. That was a lot of fun. It was one of the nice things about the pandemic and being stuck at home is, I GM'd for conventions in Australia and Europe and New Zealand and California, places people that I would never have the opportunity to play with in person. Where I live, there's like one convention kind of an hour a drive away from me, once a year that I could attend in person. So that was a lot of fun.
No, I can appreciate that. I remember when the plague hit. For me, it was X-wing. I wasn't doing well. We started playing Starfinder when the plague started online, but I hadn't really done a lot of online gaming before that. But for me, it was X-wing tournaments, and I was playing in Australian time zones and Rome time zones and Britain and all over North America and stuff like that. So yeah, it's interesting to because at that point again, I hadn't been playing online. But you start playing with people from all over the world. I now have friends in Australia and New Zealand and Austria and Finland and Great Britain and Scotland and South America that, if I want to play a game of X-Wing, I'll say, hey, Carlos, let's play a game of X-Wing. Hey, Sammy, let's get in a game of X-Wing. Um, and that was actually a very, very interesting thing. I think it really, really opened up the online gaming world in a huge way myself.
Yeah, I would agree
Yeah,
with that.
just like everybody else, we adapted and now it's here. I think Paizo has said that they're going to continue to have, at least an online component, to their big convention for the foreseeable future, so that more people can participate.
Yep, yep, I can respect that. That's I mean, why not? They do a lot of their Starfinder Society or Pathfinder Society, so it's easy to do that. You set up your game table, you set up your virtual tabletop, and you get your group of people in, and you play your game. Um, and I think it's interesting because, like you said, Zane, you get to play with people that you would just never meet around a gaming table.
Yeah, I
Uh,
definitely agree with that too. The pandemic opened up a lot of online remote role playing for me as well. I didn't really role play prior to that online. Everything I did is in tabletop with friends and local friends.
yeah,
Um, I still love local tabletop gaming. I love having dice in my hand to roll,
oh,
but
absolutely.
it's definitely a different environment online when you're using dice rollers. But yeah, they're both great in different ways for me.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. I'm glad I still run my in-person D&D game with Darren and Dustin from Attack of the Swarm and my roommate and one of our other friends. We get together once every month or two and play some D&D for a few hours. But the rest of my gaming is online. Generally speaking, we play X-Wing at the local store and go to the odd tournament. But yeah, I'll be honest. I'd actually taken quite a break from role playing games, probably for a good 4 or 5 years, before Darren and our mutual friend Giles said, "Hey, come play my D&D game. I want to run a D&D game. I've never played this game before. I want to have some fun doing it." And
Yeah,
I had an absolute blast.
that's where I met. I was about to jump in. Like that's where I met. Or not through X-wing. I met our DM here,
Yep.
Darren Weston. Then I decided to join in my first tabletop experience with Lost Minds
Lost Mine with
mod.
Randolpher.
Yeah, module. I made it most of the way through, then died near the end.
Yeah, that's a good module that's in the Dungeons and Dragons beginner book that comes with that.
Yeah, I think we all had a lot of fun with that. I think Giles is still running. Last I heard, he was running Rime of the Frost Maiden, but I think he may have switched on to whatever other adventure he's going. Because I think the last time I talked to him, and this was 6 months ago, or 8 months ago, maybe a year. Jesus. Time
Yeah, I
flies.
haven't seen Giles. I've seen his posts on Facebook, but I haven't seen Giles in a year. Like,
Yeah, yeah. He's well. They got 2 kids now, so and he's got his own business. So I think he's a little busy. But last I heard, he was still running a game. I think he was towards the end of Rime of the Frost Maiden, so he must have started something else since then. But I had a lot of fun, and that just kind of reinvigorated it. And running into you and Tom and Dustin there made it easy to say, "Hey guys, do we like? I could run something if you want. We're going into the plague." Giles wanted to, he finished off Lost Mines of Phandelver and kind of took a break for a little bit. And some of us wanted to keep gaming, so Tom said, "Oh, I wouldn't mind playing some Starfinder." And since I'd been collecting it at that point, I said, "Okay, yeah, I'll run a Starfinder game for you guys. Why not?"
Yeah, so speaking of which, what is your favorite genre, Darren? Everybody, actually. But so do you like fantasy better, sci-fi better, horror, like Cthulhian type mystery stuff? Like, what's your favorite genre of role-playing game to play?
For me, partly it'll depend on the game master. Whatever that game master is good at running, I will probably love. I've played with people who run great superhero games. I've played with people who run fantastic horror games, and I would play in their games in a heartbeat because I get right into it. And I've played the Cthulhu games where my character looks up to the ceiling, sees the unspeakable horror that he should never see, makes his sanity check, but still falls to the ground screaming and pointing at the ceiling. Because that's what you do. But for running, I think I like science fiction the best. I've run fantasy, God knows. I've run superhero. I don't run horror because I don't think I'm good at it. So I don't put much effort into it. I stay away from it as a genre. There's some of the Starfinder adventure paths I will probably never look at running just because they're not my style of game, so I don't think I'm going to do them justice.
Right.
But to run, definitely science fiction. I absolutely love it as a genre to play because I think it gives people options that are just more natural to them.
Mm. More modern day weapons.
Yeah,
Things like that.
yeah. More modern day stuff. I mean, sure, you throw magic into it with Starfinder, but it's science fiction. Everybody understands. I pull out my laser pistol and I shoot him.
Yep.
That's me.
How about Zane?
You make a good point about it being dependent on the GM and also the group of people that's playing. Horror can be a lot of fun, but it can be difficult to pull off well. I have played, at least one of the adventure paths you mentioned, Signal of Screams. I think personally, my favorite is the sci-fi. Starfinder is probably my favorite system right now. I played some Rifts back in the day. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with that one.
Yep.
Obviously, I do love Pathfinder 1E and 2E. That was my introduction to Paizo. Was Pathfinder 1. I played lots of D&D before that. Fantasy.
Yep.
It's definitely the more popular, I think, but I do really enjoy science fiction.
I've always bounced between the two.
Yep.
Need a palate cleanser.
Yeah, and you, Darren?
Yeah, change of pace.
Haven't had much like tabletop experience. Like Lost Mines was my with the Giles there was my first like real experience into like just normal fantasy. Just like for video games, I always like games like Skyrim or the like, or sometimes I like Mass Effect for its the technology based. If you see myself falling towards more like high fantasy, like D&D now, just like original D&D. I listen to like a lot of podcasts, just get a feel of different play styles, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think of the group, you probably have the least experience gaming. Maybe JJ. Um, so yeah,
Right.
you probably haven't quite had the breadth of experience as say Zane or Todd or I have. So that makes sense.
It's interesting playing with a group that has more experience. Going back to the D&D, advanced D&D second edition days and stuff like that. A lot of the people I play with now, they got into it, a lot more recently. They saw Stranger Things, or they saw an actual live play podcast, or
Yeah, Critical
Critical
Role
Role
or
or
whatever.
something, or yeah.
Critical Role. Yeah. The other group that I play with, there's only one other person in the group that's actually played Pathfinder First Edition. So I'm making all these comparisons, between 2E and First Edition, and it's going over their heads. They don't know how it worked in First Edition,
Yeah,
so
it's
there's no comparison for them.
it's interesting playing with new players compared to playing with older players. I mean, ultimately, there's
Yeah.
not a huge difference. It's a game. Everybody's just here to have fun. One of the things I've actually found lately, and I mean in the last few years, since I started getting back into gaming more recently again, is the experience of having a crappy GM seems to me anyway to be fewer and further between. You don't hear so many of those stories because people seem to be coming to gaming with a very different approach than back when I first started.
Hmm.
I don't know if either of you guys have noticed that. Maybe it's just me.
I have noticed that. I think a lot of it has to do with the quality and availability of adventure paths, and whatever they call them in other systems now.
Yeah.
And I've played with some GMs who did absolutely fantastic world building and storytelling, completely from scratch. And that's how I used to have to do things
Yep.
back in the day.
Yep. Right
Um,
there with you.
but but now I've learned that that's not my strong suit, and I think that anyone can run a well-written adventure path and add their own, flavors
Player
to it,
and yeah.
flair to it, and do so at least competently. Whereas world building, from scratch is a skill that's much harder to master. Not to mention, it takes more time.
Oh yeah. God,
The
I
adventure
don't do any
paths,
of that anymore.
yeah, take a lot of the heavy lifting off the GM, and give you more time to focus on enjoying the game.
Yep. Yep.
I think
And
that's a
and
big
and
difference.
creating those interesting story beats. I agree. The Starfinder's my first introduction to Paizo, specifically, but more to more modern day games. I used to play D&D. 3.5 was my modern day game. Um, but yeah, the adventure paths are developed really, really well. They're put together in such a way that you've got the story right in front of you, and sure, tweak it, fiddle with it, keep it exactly the same, do whatever you want with it. But it does take a lot of the heavy lifting off the GM for sure. And
Mhm.
I I've started reading through the Fly Free or Die adventure path. I don't know if you've looked at that, but it's it's written really interestingly, um, and it's almost like it's a second adventure path written to introduce people to Starfinder, similar to Dead Suns, which was kind of written along with Starfinder, um, and kind of went step by step and said, hey, this is a new thing. This is how you deal with it. I'm finding a lot of the same similar, this is how this type of mechanic works, and this is how we're going to introduce it in this adventure, in this encounter, or whatever. And I like that. I like things being written to introduce new GMs because there's a whole lot of new players out there, and which means there's got to be a whole lot of new GMs out there to service them. And old modules and stuff for D&D, there was none of that. There was very little. Here's the story. It was just here's the dungeon, here's the rooms, here's the monsters. You might get a little bit of story, a couple of paragraphs at the very beginning, but that's usually about it. Whereas these adventure paths, I mean, the first one, it gives you a synopsis of the whole adventure, book by book, for the GM. But as you're going through, it's telling the story of the adventure in such a way that it's really easy to follow along and figure out where you want to put your own little thing off on the side and your little thing here. And my players want to do that. Okay, where can I throw that into the game? And they tend to introduce interesting NPCs that allow me, at least as a GM, to really start to enjoy and make use of. It's one of the things in Drift Crashers that I really liked. Because it's so much of an adventure on rails, there's not a whole lot of time for you guys to get off the roller coaster. Very few opportunities. There are some built in, but very few, which meant the NPCs that you guys have, they have to be important to the story, which leads me to develop them a little bit more as the game goes on. And in this one, I thought that was a very nice addition to the game. To say, okay, make sure your players, everybody gets an NPC. And they don't specifically say, because you're on a roller coaster and you can't get off. But to the GM, it's almost spelled out, I'm pretty sure, in the first few paragraphs of, you're on a roller coaster. Enjoy the ride, but don't expect to get off till it's over.
Nice. We got to get up to our concert, man. That's it. Yeah.
That's one of the few complaints that I sometimes hear other players say about adventure paths is they all do tend to be more on the rails, and coming from people who prefer, a more open world sandbox type system. And depending on the adventure path, there's room for that. But also, that's just something that you agree to when you agree to play that type of game.
Yeah.
This is the story we're telling. You're not going to go off onto some planet or some tavern or somewhere else that's not relevant to that story. In this game, if you want to play a sandbox type game, there's people out there running those still that you can,
Yeah.
What do you want to do next? Oh, let's go to the next town and see what's going on in that tavern and meet some new shady characters there.
Exactly.
But in the adventure path, the next town and the next shady character, your destination is kind of written in advance.
Yeah. I find ultimately, even if somebody's running a sandbox game, and I've run any number of sandbox games over the years, my sandbox games are adventure paths. After a little while, the story takes shape and it goes where it goes. And it generally goes where the GM wants it to go. The players just don't necessarily realize it's the illusion of choice. Give them two choices. No matter what they choose, it goes to this encounter.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Yep.
That's what I was gonna say. I've already prepared this encounter, so that's what's happening no matter where you go.
yeah, it's actually one of the neat things in Fly Free or Die is a couple of the encounters are set up. Okay, they can go this way or they can go this way. It's going to be the same encounter. It's just going to be different people in the encounter. And it's
Yeah,
these are their choices. They could do this or they could do this. But when you look at it as a GM, both those situations are exactly the same. It's just different people. Um, and yeah, I mean, I agree. It's there's people that run your sandbox adventures, but if your players are getting on board with an adventure path, I very seldom find they complain about it. Tom and Andrew and you guys haven't uttered a single word of complaint about having to deal with the swarm in Attack of the Swarm. And I don't expect that to be a complaint because you jumped onto an adventure path entitled Attack of the Swarm.
exactly. Yeah, and there's still you can have fun with anything, even if you're getting attacked by a swarm all the time. As a player, you can role play and talk to other NPCs and the other players, and
Yep,
and create your own fun in that way too.
yep, yep.
It
And
doesn't have to just be a hack and slash.
no, no. And I think Pazos actually did a pretty good job with the with that adventure path. You guys are just about halfway through. Um, and it goes some really weird places in the next couple of books. I'll be honest. But I think it'll be something you guys will enjoy because you've been playing along with the adventure path and you've built up your associations with some of the NPCs and you've gotten on board with the story of the adventure so far. So I fully expect it to be enjoyed. I think it's a really neat adventure path.
Oh yeah, I'm enjoying that Attack the Swarm. It reminds me a lot of Starship Troopers, which I love that movie.
I'm planning actually on doing a HAC-Suite chat with the Attack of the Swarm group after the end of book 3 at the
Nice.
halfway point. So we'll have some discussion about that. Let's see, what else have we got? Um, Todd, you've got two very different characters between Flair in this game, little tiny halfling technomancer. And in
Mm-hmm.
Attack of the Swarm, you play Claw, the uplifted bear soldier, highly
Polar Bear,
food
yeah,
motivated, axe wielding, almost
yeah,
berserker,
no,
not quite.
yeah, no,
Um,
hardly any range. The only range is the hand axe he can throw.
yep, yep. Have you had any difficulties keeping them separate in your mind?
No, they are very different characters. No difficulties keeping them separate. Like I said, one's an uplifted polar bear that is very melee oriented and kind of barbaric and food oriented, as you said. That just will get in there and kind of the savior. He's very also kid oriented. Will do whatever it takes to save a child.
Yeah.
Making that his priority. Kind of a Papa Bear situation there. So if he sees a child in trouble, he'll do what it takes,
Yeah.
even if it costs him his own life. Whereas Flair's very kind of more outspoken, little halfling drummer. So he's a magic user, so it's way
More
different. So
more
yeah,
flexible
not hard to.
morals.
Yeah, more flexible morals, not so much, and yeah, so he'll kind of do what it takes to survive, and in this situation, and do what he can, and be Flair, and more flashy,
No,
So
I've definitely enjoyed the definite difference in the two characters because they are, like I say, they're very different people.
yeah,
And you do a good job of bringing them across very differently. Claw doesn't say quite as much, and boy, Flair, he opens his mouth, he talks.
Yeah. Claw's more of a growler. He'll growl at people when he's angry or about to go down or get crushed or something. So
And what kind of things are you guys interested in exploring with your characters? What are you looking forward to doing with your characters? What interests you?
with
So,
go ahead.
this is Crumb speaking. After playing so many magic users, I've been looking forward, just like looking down like the tech tree with my mechanic.
Okay.
Just different things I could pull off that way. It's nice not having to keep track of like a spell slots and stuff like that.
Yep. Yep. I can appreciate that.
Lot less
Yeah.
crowd, a lot less crowded like character sheet.
Fair enough.
See, and that's what I am looking forward to with Flair because he's Technomancer, so he gets spells, and I'm just looking forward to seeing what other future spells I can take that might be kind of damaging, but I'm still going to try to push for spells that
The
relate
showmanship
to
angle?
the show and showmanship that are flashy and things that are very flashy, like his character and personality. So, kind of looking forward to seeing where that goes.
All right.
And out of left field, here comes Umbra.
Hey, there's Catherine. How you doing tonight, Catherine?
Doing okay.
Excellent. We're just doing a HAC-Suite chatting about the game.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was wondering. I don't know what a HAC-Suite is.
It is a what is the holographic something?
Okay, it's a Starfinder thing. Got it.
Yeah, it's a holosuite. we're
Got it.
just chillaxing, sitting in front of the fire, pulling up ourselves a drink, and chatting about the game.
Sounds good.
We'll go back a few questions, see if we can get some answers from you. We've gotten some from the other guys.
Sure.
First impressions of the story so far. You guys have merged with a pirate ship, been to hell, escaped to an alternate universe where you're fighting with your evil twins to try and maintain control of your ship.
I don't like that word. Evil twins. No such thing. People aren't inherently evil.
Well, no, this is true. This is true. Antagonistic twins.
Yes.
Some are slightly more antagonistic than others. Some might have their own motives for doing what they're doing. Your twin certainly seems to have different reasons for being here than the others.
Indeed.
We have a fan of removal of the alignment system here.
Yes, the alignment system's dumb. Give me edicts and anathema.
I can respect that.
Let me behave as I want to behave.
Fair enough. I'm generally pretty loose on the alignment system. I don't even know if I've asked you guys for alignments. It very rarely plays a part in a science fiction game for me. In a D&D game, I could get behind it because in old school D&D, it's the definition of good versus evil, law versus chaos. There's
Yeah.
gods, there's magic, and it all makes sense. Starfinder,
Paladins and
It
clerics.
makes sense when you're talking about angels and demons. Does not
Exactly.
make sense when you're talking about humans and goblins.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
but we've been to hell.
Exactly. Like I said, it does make sense when you're talking about angels and demons. But if you're talking about, humanoids and stuff, that doesn't make sense. There's no reason goblins are evil. They
No.
can be whatever they want to be.
Yeah. No, I can respect that. It's one of the nice changes I've seen over the years in gaming.
I do love the space goblins in Starfinder. They're adorable.
I think they're awesome.
They are.
Got my t-shirt here somewhere.
Oh, I'm jealous. I want to get one of their hoodies because I need a new hoodie soon. My Gold Squadron hoodie is getting towards the end of its life, I think. My 312 hoodie is worn off the front. I'm very disappointed in that one, but I think it's because I wore it a lot. At least my Nickel City hoodie's good. All right. what was your inspiration behind Umbra? You joined the game, what, 10 hours before we rolled dice?
Yep. Well, I mean, most of the inspiration was covered because you mentioned that it was a band. So I was just like, well, let me see what I could do for a band. Plus, I've never played Starfinder before. So I just looked at the classes and saw what was interesting to me, and Witch Warper stood out. It's like, yeah, Witch Warper, and I looked through the aliens. I'm like, which one looks like it'll be good for a Witch Warper and also of interest to me. And so I grabbed the Fetchling or a Keali, and yeah, just threw it together. I'm like, well, and you didn't have a lead guitarist yet, so that was whatever. It's just thrown together.
All right. I can get behind that. I think the fact that the concept of, hey, this is a band, um, I think probably helped a few of you guys kind of come up with a character idea a little bit easier and a little bit quicker, because
I
it's
don't
not
know
your
if the
typical.
band idea is me,
Okay.
but it's fine. It made it easy. It made it to where I didn't have to think about an idea. I
Nope.
was like, well, all right, band, sure, we can do that. Um, that said, of course, since creating this character, I've also been playing Pathfinder Society, so I have also created an Umbra Eizenhar's cards as a witch fetchling in Pathfinder.
Nice.
But she's not in a band. She's a freedom fighter.
That's all right. You do what you need to do.
Indeed.
And what has been your favorite part of the game so far?
Favorite part? Huh. Um, I guess I like the Witch Warper. I like that I can be creative with it and make shit up.
I can respect that. As a class in the game, I think it's actually one of the more interesting ones, ability-wise.
Like I said, it definitely stood out to me across all the other classes. It's like the Witch Warper definitely is my type of thing.
Cool, cool. I'm really enjoying Darren's Witch Warper in our other game, Attack of the Swarm. We've had a lot of fun
Yeah,
with that.
I've been playing it for a little bit now. I'm still trying to come into some of the abilities. Mine are a few different ones because I chose like a death touch path, so I'm not gonna be like the same witch warper you're gonna be.
No, no, and you've got your projected ability. He's from a different alternate reality in that game.
Yeah, kind of has got an interesting storyline going along with his wife and stuff there too on that
Yeah,
other game.
yeah. Hopefully I'll be able to kind of tie up some of the loose ends in that story by the end of this book. Maybe, if I do things properly, but we'll see. It might take a little bit longer than that. But let's see. What other questions do we have for you folks?
Well, I can ask Catherine the question I asked. Catherine, what's your favorite genre of game, whether it be sci-fi, fantasy, or something else, or superhero?
So generally fantasy. Um, I'm pretty easygoing on all of them though. Although when it comes to sci-fi, well, yeah, it's fine. I guess the only thing I don't like is I don't like post-apocalyptic type things, and I don't like cybernetic things. So as long as I can create a character that doesn't have to touch on those type of themes, I'm cool.
Yeah, and Starfinder's got some of that, but you don't have to do it.
Exactly. Like, and
Yeah.
Pathfinder has some of it. They've got like the necks with androids and guns and whatever. I'm like, yeah, you guys do that. I'm not going to touch that.
No, that's fair.
Gotcha. More traditional character. Well,
It's one
not
of the
traditional,
things
but traditional.
It's one of the things I've enjoyed with Starfinder is that it's got such a broad range of things you can do,
Exactly.
and it seems very easy, at least for me as a GM. I found to kind of tailor your adventures and what's going on to the theme you want to set. Um,
Of course, with Witch Warper, I went for the most fantasy of class, probably.
Yeah, that's. I was about to say, like with Starfinder, you can run like just like a classic like D&D character stuck in like a future or whatever. Like a
Yep.
just run it all magic based, be a coffee.
Good. Um, those were a lot of the questions I have. My last question for you guys is, with 2.5 books left to go, do you guys have any guesses as to what the future's going to bring for the Drifters before they make it to their gig? Hopefully.
No idea.
Nope. I imagine we'll
Uh,
be
I used to,
jumping
yeah, jumping through more times and
multiverses
places.
and times and places until we get
Yeah,
where
and
we need to be back home so we can play our gig.
my character is just wondering if he's going to make it through this fight. One well placed shot, and they could be rolling a new character.
I mean,
Hey, at least
I'm outside the ship.
Right. Yeah, we're kind of in that dire straits right here. It's not looking so great right now. But
Well, her armor sheet people are alive for at least a
yeah,
day.
a day. Yeah,
That
there's
give
at
you
least
time to get
24
back
hours.
inside the ship.
Well,
Yep.
fortunately, I should not be outside that long. I have some ideas on how I can resolve this.
Good. Good. I've got some as well. I don't think it'll be that terribly difficult for you, given that you're a Witch Warper and you can do funky things.
Exactly. I have funky things planned.
Be as creative as you want with your Witch Warper abilities, because that's what makes them the coolest ability in the game.
Yep.
All right. Do any of you guys have any questions for me? I know I didn't.
Yes. Next game is Tuesday the 13th, which is NCX Draft. So
Okay.
obviously a lot of us are going to be busy.
Yeah, we may be. Okay. We can start late that night if you guys want, or we could.
I think the draft will last all night because that's the players draft, 160 players.
God,
Like
that's
it's going to
right.
take a long time.
That's right. The last one. Well, the last one wasn't horrible, but I don't remember. It was 2 hours, so wasn't it? Yeah.
We'll see how it goes, but
Yeah, that could last a while. What time's he starting that?
probably 6:30 because he can't really do sooner.
Yeah.
We were talking about in the captain's chat today.
No.
We were looking into seeing if we could start sooner, but that's not really an option.
Yeah, no, because he's gotta have work, and everybody else needs time.
Yep.
To get ready and stuff too. All right. So the good news for me is
But,
it's like 3:30 my time.
I'm going to ask you the tough question.
Sure.
Who's your favorite character that the players played so far?
Oh, making the GM play favorites. Rude.
That's right.
Ooh. That's a tough one.
I'm putting out the tough
I
questions.
like all the
told you.
characters because all of you guys have done a good job, I think, creating a character that kind of stands out. You're all interesting individuals.
Different.
You all approach things a little bit differently. And I'm having a whole lot of fun with all of you, but I think I'm going to take the character that I know the best and have known the longest, and that's going to be the reptile, because I ran the reptile first.
That's right. Okay.
He's
I'm gonna
my
put him down.
character. Not really, he's Tom's character. But there we go. Definitely avoid
DMs
that
are like
one.
parents. They're not allowed to tell you who their favorite is.
No.
Yeah, gave us the parrot answer.
Honestly, I like all your characters.
It's all right.
I think
It's
they're
all
all
right.
interesting.
I know it's Flair. Tell the others.
All right. Well, if that is all the questions we have, I would like to thank you all for joining us in the HAC-Suite tonight. Thanks for joining us and taking a little bit of a break from the regular action to give it just that little teeny tiny little bit more of a cliffhanger. And Drift Crashers will return on February 13th, probably slightly later than the usual time. We'll see. If it runs too late, we may end up coming back on the 27th of February. We'll see what's what. But if you've enjoyed this content, please give the video a like and follow the channel for the further adventures of the Drifters. Thanks for joining us, and have a good evening, everybody.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Good night,
Cheers,
everybody.
all.
Hope you enjoyed this session and learned a little bit more about us.